All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting back to order. This is our briefing of the Mason County Commission, Monday, June 17th. We're going to move into our presentation by Derek Young from the Washington State Association of Counties. Welcome. And if you wouldn't mind, do an introduction of who you have with you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time, Commissioners. With me today is Mark Ozias. He's both our second vice president, for the organization, as well as a Clallam County Commissioner. And so he's was able to join us this morning and able to answer some of your questions from a board perspective, if you would like. If there's nothing else, I could start my presentation. Am I able to share?
You should be able to.
Yeah, give it a shot, see if it works.
Yeah, looks like I am. One second.
Well, while Derek's pulling that up, I just want to echo his appreciation for making time for us this morning. We really are happy to have the chance to meet with you today.
Almost wish we're in a WASAC meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, again, thank you. Appreciate your time. Although I know each of you commissioners, for the benefit of the staff and public, my name is Derek Young. I'm the interim executive director for the Washington State Association of Counties. Although I'm new to the organization as of May 15th, I am not new to the county family. I spent 8 years on the Pierce County Council, during that time, I represented counties on the legislative steering committee for all 8 years, and about 5 as co-chair. And so got the chance to know all of you during that time. And we taken over for Eric Johnson, who retired on May 30th. Fortunately, the board gave us time to have a transition period, so I was able to download 17 years of information from Eric's brain, and hopefully we'll hit the ground running here. We are here to discuss an upcoming special membership meeting, and the reason for it is that the organization's undergoing some change. As you may recall, last year there was some turmoil in the county family. As a result, we have one member that is no longer an active dues-paying member, and that's King County. And during that intervening time, we also heard from a couple counties that a couple other large counties that were on the fence about continuing as well. The president, President Janicki, who's a commissioner from Skagit County, reconvened the bylaws committee to begin looking at some changes and the way we do business, to make sure that everyone felt not only represented but valued part of the organization, because we truly are stronger together. The legislative steering committee really took first crack at having some change, and I think had a significant success coming out of our legislative steering committee retreat. And so first, getting some of these were kind of unwritten rules that we've had for years, but it was time to really write them down and make sure we're thoughtful about it. The first is making sure that the issues that we work on are related directly to county business. We're not just working on things that really are only relevant at that state or federal level, but in how those governments impact the work that we all do. That gets past a lot of the more political type issues. The second needs to be affect more than 2 counties or more than 1 county. And the last is that it can't harm any policy we adopt, can't harm any counties. And that's significant because you don't want anyone thinking that our work will negatively impact their work. The process they adopted divided up, really reserved 2 slots for urban issues, rural issues, and then all county issues. And in fact, in the latter one, we ended up with 3 because everyone was very supportive of all 3 issues. but this enabled larger counties to really make sure that some of their needs were met. The smallest counties were able to make sure that their needs are met, and then we had room for everyone. So the process was a proportional vote process for the urban issues portion, and that made sure from a population standpoint that while because it requires a 75% authorization, you can't just be the largest counties alone. There has to be fairly broad buy-in, but with that proportional weighting. The rural county vote worked just like it has in the past. One county, one vote. And that was to ensure, again, that the smallest counties would make up the majority, but they still needed to convince others to go along. And then finally, the all-county process required an 85% threshold. The reason for that is we wanted to make sure that there was broad consensus that these were major issues affecting county government. So that voting procedure was a first attempt to try that proportional representation that we are looking at for the future here in our bylaw changes. The Ledge Committee came up with the following agenda. This is preliminary. It's all going to require quite a bit of work by staff, and then bring these issues back to the Legislative Steering Committee. First, looking at new county revenue, and so we want to make sure that counties have the resources they need to do the work that the state asks us to do. So over the last couple of decades, that shared revenue has dwindled, and it's making it harder for us to do that work. And so increasing the amount of state shared revenue would reverse that. Second is indigent defense. Washington is fairly unique in that it only funds about 3% of the cost of indigent defense in Washington. Most states, it's approaching 100%, or excuse me, for most states, it's over 50%. And for quite a few states, it's 100%. So we're quite unusual in that regard. Caseload standards are also looking at changes proposed to the Supreme Court. We're working on that at that level, but if that were to go into effect, some counties are looking at 2 to 3 times the amount of resources needed in order to match that. In fact, I think I saw an estimate based on our calculator from Mason County about that range. The next is, again, one of those rural county priorities for funding for county coroners. The next is FSEC. If you haven't heard of that, it's not as common on our side of the water or the mountains, but it's related to energy, clean energy projects. And it essentially is a way for the state to bypass local rules. And so a lot of counties are looking for more of a voice in those decisions. And even if we can't get that, can we look at something that makes sure that counties are held harmless if they are bypassing our local zoning codes and growth management and building standards? Next, we're looking at more accountability for our behavioral health continuum of care. The concern there is that when we established this new system, that there weren't enough rigor in our standards, and we'd like to establish more, make sure that people are getting the care that they need, and then also being able to reopen those contracts so we can go back when there hasn't been accountability for the organizations that are doing that work. And next, we have something that is beginning to impact pretty much every corner of the state at this point, and that's housing access and affordability. That can be both land use and potential revenue options. And then finally, we believe that this session, there will be a proposal for transportation preservation and maintenance funding. For the last couple decades, the state has not included local governments really in those transportation packages. And we'd like to make sure that county roads in our systems and perhaps in yours are able to take part in that as well. So coming out of that, we felt pretty good about the direction things were going. There's been significant progress by the bylaws committee in addition. And so what we're asking members for is some changes that we've been able to make to date. and or what the committee's been able to make to date, and ask for more time. And basically, everyone is negotiating in good faith and making real progress. And so we don't want to stop that momentum. So here's what the proposed changes would do on the 26th. First, they allow for an extension of dues if over half is paid by June 30th. You may recall the last meeting, last membership meeting last year, a rule was put into place that required that dues be paid in order to be an active member. As of right now, we have at least 2 counties and potentially a third. We think it's a clerical error that have not paid their dues at this point, or all of them. So the reason that this is important is that on June 30th, they will no longer be voting members. So in order to keep them as voting members and working towards resolution, this amendment would allow them to continue if 50% were paid at the end of the June 30th. The second is looking at proportional voting. At the board level, this would allow for a proportional vote to be called by any 2 members. And what that would do is effectively similar to what we had for the urban county issues. We don't anticipate that this is something that would come up a lot, but it would be there if necessary. So normally the board and the general membership would operate by the rules that have been established for some time. The third is that it adds an additional board seat for elected county executives in the larger counties. So that's over 750,000 in population. Those counties would be Snohomish, King, and Pierce. Those elected executives could also appoint a staff member to serve in there as a proxy. And then finally, on dues, the desire here is to basically continue working on it, but it would give some policy direction. Because dues are set in by policy, not in the bylaws. So the bylaws section, it really is about making sure that they're fair and equitable, and don't overburden our smallest members who really don't have budget capacity to be able to dramatically increase their dues, but at the same time recognizing that some of our members are basically accounting for over half the revenue for the organization. So are there some things that we can do to better reflect what's an equitable arrangement? So the policy and the bylaws give some more direction to the board of directors to establish them here later this year. So that's the gist of what we're looking at for this May 26th meeting. We wanted to get out to as many counties as possible in order to make sure we answered any questions, because I think part of the problem that we ran into last year is that the proposals, people were seeing them for the first time. They're a little different now. So like the proportional voting, for example, I neglected to mention, everyone starts out with a vote, and then more are added for based on dues. So for every $10,000, you add another vote, and that's how the proportionate vote would work for that. Previously, the proposals, I think, caught a lot of folks by surprise. And so we wanted this opportunity to be able to chat with you all and see if you had any questions, but also to introduce the proposals.
So, Derek, I thank you. Does Mark want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I just want to let all of you know that the bylaws committee has it's had really great representation from large and small counties, east and west counties, really across the board, and high quality participation from everyone who's been working on that. And that group really has gone through a variety of different conversations about different kinds of weighted voting schemes and how those might work and what the implications would be. Really taking a look at a variety of different dues structures, and all the elements that Derek just presented are sort of the refinement, and as close as we are right now to a finished product that has really been well supported. So I certainly would love to answer any questions. I want to ask all of you specifically for, I hope that you're able to attend the special meeting that we're holding at the end of the month in Yakima. Of course, there's a virtual option for that. And it's really important to have a good turnout from our membership. And if you have any concerns about any of the bylaw changes that we've talked about, then I'd love to explore those with you. And I'd love to ask for your support to allow us to continue doing all of the work that so many folks from around the state have been doing to try and figure out what an effective and successful state association of counties looks like moving forward. And I think if you take a look at the legislative agenda, you see it's relatively broad. And we had a lot of conversation about, given the concern about resource and where the organization's at, do we need to narrow down the legislative agenda? And Commissioner Trask can certainly speak to this as well, but I think the group really recognized that we have a lot of priorities and we need to find a way to work together and to support a staff and to support an organization that can help us all advance those priorities. So just really underscores the work that we're doing. So that's really what I had to add for right now. But again, if you have any questions or if there are any elements of what Derek's presented that you would like to explore in more detail, then we'd love to talk more about it.
I know myself, I'm going to have a comment because there's a lot of this that bothers me, but I want to go ahead and open it up for Commissioner Trask first. She sits and she's our representative there. So Commissioner Trask, is there anything you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, when we put together the legislature at our legislative steering committee and we put together our priorities, some of those conversations were very passionate. And it's also very cool to see the difference between the east side and the west side, and then the difference between the rural and the urban, and not a whole lot of difference between all counties because we all have like OPD. That's a huge, it has a big impact on our counties. And so to see how all of us are working together is pretty cool, honestly. I believe that last year when we had the as Derek would say, the I can't remember exactly what you said it, but it was very interesting and very heated, and it was very passionate. Seeing all of us work together in one room, mine is King County. King County wasn't there, but to see the urban and the rural counties getting together and talking about our differences and how we can all work together because we all have constituents. They're not urban or rural. They're all of Washington. And so making sure that everybody understands that, and that moving forward, that's the direction we want to go, is to make sure that the counties are doing what's good for Washington state. I think we do a better job than our how do I want to say this politically correct? I forget it. We do a lot better than the legislature does because we see the problems every day. We live them, we're here working in them. Not saying that they're disconnected, but some of them are. And so it's important that the counties have a strong voice at the legislature or with the legislature. I could go on, but I won't.
Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Ozias, good to see you. Derek, good to see you as well. Just a couple of questions, I guess. So would it be fair for us to assume that what you presented to us today and that you'll be presenting at the special meeting next week has already been discussed with King County in terms of what their interest is in seeing that included in the bylaws for future reunion with King County and the association? Or is this kind of a guess at, or is this more aimed at sort of salvaging the relationship with Pierce and Snohomish?
Yeah, I would say more the latter. Certainly, it's. I guess I'll put it this way: King hasn't commented directly on any of these. it's in keeping with what some of their requests were in the past, but a little different. But it's certainly, I would say this package of proposals is in line with what Snohomish and Pierce are really looking for.
And then I guess as a follow-up to that, just, I appreciate sort of the broad nature of the legislative priorities that you discussed earlier. But I think, just from our perspective, what does that legislative strategy look like heading into the next long session? I think we've been generally relatively ineffective with our legislative strategy. And so I know that there's a lot of people who have experience and want to see good things happen on behalf of counties, but I think we lag behind our like organizations in this state. And so just curious about what your plans are to help improve our legislative approach.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so first and foremost, I think it depends on the priorities that you bring in, because that will impact the likelihood of them passing, obviously. But so some of it is going to be how strategic we are. It's also a right place, right time kind of issue. So, for example, foundational public health, which came from Wasalpa, one of our affiliates, but really was we were successful in that in part because of WASEC's work, but also the raised awareness that public health took during that time period. So while it took a couple of years of building an awareness on the issue, we also had to strike while the timing was right. So it's a confluence of those things. Indigent defense is another great example. We've been beating our heads against that wall for a while. I think it's important not to abandon it, because we have put so much work into it and it's important. But now we also have the Supreme Court, with both our case in front of them on appeal. For those that don't know, it was dismissed in the trial court on standing grounds. We think that was clearly an error, and the board approved an appeal to the Supreme Court. And at the same time, they'll be considering these caseload standards. So I think from our perspective that we've done all the building, now the timing is right. And so the question will be, does the legislature come to the table there? And then finally, for some of these issues that are more narrow in scope, it's about finding the right mix of legislators with an interest in it. So we'll need to find champions throughout the legislature, and not just rely on one side of the aisle or one side of the mountains or another. The coroners issue is a great example. We've got coroners all over. We've got counties all over that are facing this issue, but we'll need to be pretty strategic about finding where the right champions are in the legislature.
And commissioners, if I could just add to that briefly, the last main session, the Legislative Steering Committee set 4 predominant priorities and actually achieved success on all 4 of those. So some of what you see this year is sort of follow up and doubling down on some of those previous priorities. The other thing that the group has been doing, when talking about how to be more effective with our legislative advocacy, is it has moved up its process by at least 6 months, so that these priorities can be identified earlier in the year, which gives us more chance over the summer and early fall, as the session is taking shape, to better understand where are the areas of most potential impact. Gives us a little bit of time to do some relationship building, so that hopefully we're better situated when the session starts to be effective, rather than having just decided what our priorities are at that time. So I think the combination of an updated process and an expedited timeline over the course of time will hopefully help us continue to be effective with the advocacy around those most important priorities.
Yeah, that extra time is huge for staff.
Great. And I guess my last question then, and this might be more geared towards Commissioner Ozias than you, Derek. Just looking ahead to the meeting next week, if for some reason this proposal does not pass, what is your break glass in case of emergency option here for what the future of the association looks like?
Yeah, well, that's a very important question and speaks to why we're here. And while I can't speak for Snohomish and Pierce, or King counties, certainly Snohomish and Pierce counties have been very good partners in trying to work with the organization to maintain an entire organization and make changes that will hopefully bring King County back in the fold. The reality is, if if the organization is not able to make the changes that are necessary, and if Pierce and or Snohomish or both of those counties decide that they need to reevaluate their membership, whether that is not paying the remainder of dues for this year or not being a member moving forward, then we will be having an existential conversation about this organization. What does a less than 38 or 39 county organization look like? It would mean obviously a significant rejiggering of the organization. And so while I can't say with complete certainty what that outcome might look like, it would be dramatic. And it speaks to the level of commitment that so many from around the state have been putting into trying to bring forward a suite of strategies and recommendations that really ensure that all counties have a voice, that all counties have the ability to impact every decision that's made, that at the same time recognizes that that there's several risks to the organization from having just a few counties fund so much of our operations. So, finding ways to expand how we think about bringing in revenue, all of this is really important. But if we are not able to, adopt these changes, and if that is interpreted by Pierce and Snohomish counties as a rejection of the work that we've collectively been trying to do, then I have serious concerns about the future trajectory of the organization. And I think that we all ought to share those concerns.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for the questions.
So I'm a little harsher on this whole thing, and I'm just going to talk very straight and out front. Derek, you and I respect you, and I have don't take this any bad way, but we had an interaction that describes what had happened and how I feel the way I feel. So you were representing your county, I was representing mine. It wasn't bad between us, but what happened at the time was something that showed the strength of our organization. First, I want you to know, when I first became a member, I was actually a member of the Port Association and the county at the same time for 1 year. So when I went down there, I was down there the same time with one, and then having to run to the other side of the room for another, because they had put together this list of people I hugged and they wanted to call them off the floor. And so literally I saw the difference between the two, and ineffective was definitely a word that could have been used when it came to the Association of Counties and the actual effect it had on the room compared to the ports. They were respected more, they were maybe feared more, I'm not sure which. There was a time where I went to the head of local, and because they had literally thrown our proposal out, and sat and talked with them. They would send me in there to take on the ones that were mean, because I was good at that. And the guy proceeded to tell us, of course I took it out, you guys are milquetoast. That was his comment about the association, and it hurt my feelings at the time. And I was telling him, no, I can understand why you would say that, but you're wrong. We can do this. We can put it together. The man actually said, you put it together. You get him to go ahead and stand. This is in regards to urban growth and the idea that we could start to expand on some of the usage in the urban growth area. And he said, but you're milquetoast. You go up the back and you put it together. You come back unified with the position. I'll carry it on there myself. That's what he said. So we met with a bunch of different people, and we were putting together a proposal. Everything was going good. But then we ran into Pierce County at the time. Now, for Pierce County, again, I don't begrudge you because you're representing your county. If we were to loosen up those restrictions, it would be easier to put the businesses and stuff in our counties, where currently they were able to already benefit from the structure in Pierce and King County by us being limited on what we can do, what we can bring out into our rural areas. So it was a good argument that we had, but he was right. When it was all over with, we ended up becoming milquetoast, and we're not able to bring back into that room the proposal that he would have carried to the floor. And that was very eye-opening for me. And I'm telling you that story because imagine if there's a weighted vote and Pierce County and King decides that our rural counties are better off if it's even restricted more. If they just can say that themselves and we end up getting hurt even more. That is my concern. And it's a serious concern when these come out, not just that they just run the meeting or that they have a little more power. There are things that can be done that can make our life even harder and worse because it's not as beneficial to them. Also, when you have something like that, you will basically have an association of large counties of which we're supporters. That's a different animal, and we'll be paying at times for things that can hurt us. And again, I have a hard time seeing how that is truly beneficial to my county. So I wanted you to know that. I also wanted you to know that if something like this happens and we put it together, I got a serious concern that what happens the next time they get mad. If they can devastate it this much, this badly, what happens the next time they get mad and how much more will it cost all of us? Now, I want to remind you, the Association of Counties is an association of counties, and it is their sphere of influence that makes a difference. It's not the money that comes in. If we have to tighten our belt to still keep our sphere of influence, if we become powerful with 34 counties, they'll join on because they need our help. It's the other way around. Right now, if they take over the whole thing, we'll have nowhere to go. So I just wanted you to know that those are my concerns, and I'm not saying I'm a no. We're going to have our own discussions about it, but I think Commissioner Trask mentioned about East Side and West Side differences. I kind of go along with a lot of the East Side issues. Those could be dead just that quickly. Even having weighted votings of extra people in the room, let alone a powerful vote like this when it comes to the money. Are we an association of counties or an association of the dollar that the county pays? So I need you to know that that's where I stand on this at this point. I'll listen to the debate, and I'm one of those people I can be convinced differently. I'm just not sure how it's going to, but I'm only one vote on my commission.
Well, Commissioner, I thank you so much for being honest. I really appreciate that. That's obviously really important. And I'd like to speak to a couple of the concerns that you've raised. With regard to the legislative agenda for rural counties, the intent was to devise a system that allowed for urban counties to have more of a voice for issues that were more relevant to them, for rural counties to have more of a voice for issues that were more relevant to them, and for the legislative agenda collectively to not be put together in a way or contain a priority that would harm another county. So the proportional voting within the legislative arena is only for that's only for the urban county priorities. So rural county priorities are not subject to the weighted vote. And I am hopeful, and I think the goal anyway was to develop a system that ensured that when there is a proportional vote, that every county has some ability to influence the outcome, and that when there's a proportional vote, that vote is applicable to the largest counties. So hopefully that sort of pair of protections will help ensure that the legislative priority concerns that you're describing that will not come to pass. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight is, and that can get kind of mixed up in this conversation because we're talking about all of it at the same time, is that the legislative priorities are certainly an important component of the work that the Association of Counties does, but it's only one component. And the bylaw changes and dues updates that we're looking at here are really intended to speak more broadly to the organization and all of the work that is done in terms of providing education to newly elected officials and ongoing education and outreach, coordination, making board appointments, et cetera, all of the research and information, the legal support, the whole suite of services that the association provides. And so and I think ultimately what you are speaking to, at least the way that I interpret that, is value. And how do, whether you're Mason County or Pierce County or Pend Oreille County, how do you ensure that the organization has value to you and to your county? And part of what we're trying to understand and work toward is, if you don't see value, or you don't see that the legislative process for enough, maybe it's not working as effectively as you think it should. We want to put structures in place that will encourage your participation so that it can be a more effective strategy later. And we're hopeful that by segregating urban priorities, rural priorities, all county priorities, and with an overarching goal of do no harm to other counties, that hopefully that will help us be more effective and provide more meaning to all counties.
But if you've got this position and this position and this position, that just brings us right back, in my opinion, to what that representative said. That's milquetoast. That's literally just soggy toast that we're not able to carry a true iron-fisted meaning. So that makes us awful weak when we go in those rooms. And again, I'm talking from watching what success looked like when I was there, and I've also been there as a guest with the Association of the Cities and watching them work. And it's funny too, because at the same time I was doing it, I had Eric Johnsons at both ends. They were both Eric Johnsons. But I got to tell you, I just see it as we're still just spreading it out. If we don't have a united message, and sometimes we agree to disagree and fight that out, then I don't know how we get anything that is pointed. We'll get lucky and we'll get stuff that passes, but it won't be that we got it passed. We're just enough to keep from teetering one way or the other. I'm hoping that we do something more with that in the near future. I have no disrespect for the organization, because I think it is needed. The question is, if we do this, how needed will it be? Is there a better option? Do we talk to the risk pools who still have some weight themselves and ask them to look at doing it for our rural counties instead? Because there's a whole group of people in those rooms that are going to listen to those rural counties. But when they're getting the message from the upper counties and they think that we're only going to be representing them, they're going to turn their back on us too, just like they did when I went in there that time. He was correct. But again, I appreciate it. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Trask.
Thanks. So I'm not sure what it was like, Commissioner Netherland, when you were there, but I do know that things, I feel deep in my heart that we're working better, that we're working as a team. When we put in the do no harm, that was significant. You should have seen the faces, the emotions, the comments going around the room when that was brought forward. And I think that made the larger counties also look at how, because everybody was able to listen to each other and hear how something would hurt their county, whether it be urban or rural. And so going forward, I think that I still have a I guess angst against the weighted voting or the proportional voting. But as a commissioner, I had no idea about FSEC. It was like, what the heck is that? But then listening to how windmills and other things affected counties on the east side, it was like, wow, because I'm always talking about the west side and how important decisions are to us. But listening to them, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have a really good, strong team. I know that we'll probably get new faces and in come January. But I think with the people that are there and the understanding that we have of how we're going to move forward with or without King County, honestly, I don't really have a feeling one way or the other on that one. Well, I do, but I'm not going to say them here. But knowing that that it's the rural counties and the urban counties that really do want to make a difference, that we're all working together, makes me have hope for the future. So I guess long story short, I don't care what King County does, but keeping the rest of us together and working on a united front is important.
And as for that, I understand that what you're saying, Commissioner, but it's not very united when they have King County out. Is now, so I understanding that Pierce County is also stepping sideways from your discussion. That's what it sounded like.
So really, it was Snohomish County that indicated that they would that they were reevaluating, and at that point, you begin to have a domino effect. And so Pierce was not wanting to be the last of the large ones holding the bag, and and then from there on, you can see it potentially unraveling completely because the value starts to diminish. The main value, almost exactly as Commissioner Trask, had just put it. The main value of the organization is if you're speaking for all families, you have access to, or for all counties, excuse me, you have access to each other's legislators. Otherwise, you don't. If everyone tries to, just go and hires their own lobbyists and wanders off, someone from a legislator from up north doesn't care what what Pierce County wants or what Mason County wants. It's different when you go into that office with someone from Snohomish County and they're advocating for your issues as well. And so that's the real strength of the organization. And yes, am I concerned if we don't pass this about losing more members? Absolutely. Losing King County, it was 25% of the budget. Those three alone are 55% of the budget. So I'd be overseeing a very different project, essentially. That's largely dismantling the organization. I don't want to leave that as like a final word, because as Commissioner Trask has kind of noted, coming out of the last legislative steering committee meeting was probably the best I've seen the organization function in a very long time. And a lot of it really it wasn't even in the rule book. It was how we sat people together, and that came from different geographies, different type sizes of counties. And they were able to really listen to each other. And I think it worked. So I'm hopeful that, everyone giving a little here will make a difference. And also, I just need to note, proportional representation or voting on, for example, the board. You're talking about dues, the budget, bylaws, things like that. The legislative agenda that we talked about, it's established by that process in the LSC. So in terms of those issues coming up, again, it's we've got some pretty good rules that I think balance those, need for the each county to have a voice, while also giving greater say to some on urban issues to some of the urban counties. But they still, because of the high threshold, they still have to convince others to go along. They can't do it alone. And that's I think, most critical part. Same for the all county, vote. You have to convince 85% of your colleagues to support it. That's a really high rate of consensus.
Not once you get control of the bylaws.
And it certainly, if the rules were to change, the rules would be to change.
Yeah. Commissioners, or Mark, do you have anything you'd like to ask?
No, I think that you guys covered all the questions that I had. I mean, I've had a great relationship with WASAC for a long time, and they're a huge resource for us, and want to continue to see that happen, because I do think that opportunities where we can get together and speak with one voice tends to be heard better. So hopefully we can continue to do that.
I agree. Commissioners, anything further you'd like to ask?
No, I think I've heard enough.
Okay. Derek or Mark, anything you guys would like to add in closing?
I just want to thank you for your time, and offer myself and members of the board, are happy to chat as well about anything you have questions about coming after this. That's why we're doing this, is we didn't want anybody to be surprised by the proposed changes. The bylaws committee worked really, really hard on this, and so we want to make sure that you all understand what you'll be voting for. And we hope you'll join us on June 26th, either in person or remote.
And just to make clear, I'm not even sure I'm standing against it. I'm just giving the other side of it because I don't have a solution, Derek.
Well, and Commissioner, frankly, all of the concerns that you raise are obviously quite valid, and those are all things that both the Legislative Steering Committee, the Bylaws Committee, and the Board of Directors and the Executive Board have really struggled through. And part of what I had hoped to communicate today is that we have done our best to take all of those factors into consideration and really try and figure out what does it look like to when we have populations with counties with such different populations, what does equity, what does fairness, what does participation look like? And I'm hopeful that we have struck the right balance here. But I don't want to minimize any of the concerns that you raised because those are exactly what we've been grappling with and trying to keep in mind ourselves as we've been advancing this series of recommendations. So thank you from my perspective as well so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
And I thank you for your time. I just hope if this does pass that those larger organizations, once they're able to take that control, are kind enough to feed us because that's what we're going to be talking about when there's a power shift. So, all right. Thank you guys very, very much. And we haven't decided if all three of us will be attending that, but I have a feeling that we will. We'll see what happens. The commissioners will decide how they're doing it. Thank you so very much again. If there's nothing else, have a great day.
Thank you so
And
much.
we're probably going to miss the virtual assembly. Our meeting's going along.
Yeah, so someone talked too much. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. All right, next up we have Indigent Defense. Peter.
Hello, commissioners.
Hi.
Quite the act to follow there. So I have two things that I put before you. The first is that the Supreme Court has placed the updated standards up for comment. That is their first kind of step towards passing them and putting them into place and making them completely mandatory, as opposed to just quasi-mandatory as they are right now. I think we should probably put a comment up as Mason County. I'm happy to draft that, but I kind of wanted to get an idea of what the response should be. My knee-jerk reaction, we've got a Supreme Court who is pretty committed to making some sort of change and latching down some sort of restriction. But I've watched them in the rulemaking meetings twice now, and both times, every time they listened to a comment, it was one that said, hey, you're doing too much too quickly. And so I think phrasing a letter along those lines, saying, I understand that you want that you believe there's a problem here. Here is all of the great things that Mason County Indigent Defense has managed to do within the current standards. Why don't we just try it at the 2025 levels and not move on to the complete 2026, 2027, 2028 levels that they have in the standards? And so that is, obviously I would phrase it in more formal language than that, but if there is some other take that the board has on it, I would prefer to know that now so that I can draft around that sort of language as opposed to what's in my head.
I'll go ahead and jump in, and I attended the meeting, so you know where I stand on some of this stuff, but I'd like to see us ask in the form of a question, how many hours of work is acceptable for an attorney on the public defender side per year? And with that being said, of how many hours that they consider to be a realistic amount without placing too great a burden on them, is there a possibility of separating it out by hour instead? That's how I feel about it. Commissioners Trask or Sheedy, Got any ideas?
I have so many ideas. So Peter, I think you, me and Mark are going to meet on Thursday morning to talk about this more also, but I hesitate to even say that we're going to go toward the 2025 requirements even yet. I think that there's still a lot of work that we could do before we should even say that. So I would like to maybe talk about that a little bit more and hear maybe from Commissioner Schutte also before we move too far down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think Peter, I think you might be on the right track. I would like to see a pretty strong message from us on this issue that, that incorporates some of the discussions that have been happening at the Indigent Defense work group, and just sort of, I kind of want to see a draft and then be able to edit from there. When do we have to submit comment by?
We've got until October, so we've got some time.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we don't want to take that long, but we do have a little bit of runway here. Yeah. So I think
So if I thought we were under a time gun, I would have drafted something and put it in front of you instead of
totally fair
doing it this way.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think Commissioner Trask sounds like he's meeting with you later this week. Commissioner Netherland is obviously on the work group. I'd like to also have an opportunity to sit down with you and Mark and get a similar briefing, on some of the finer points that we don't have time for today.
Very well.
But I definitely think that there's no reason for us to pull any punches when it comes to submitting comment on this.
Okay.
All in agreement there. Is that enough for you, Peter? Or?
Well, that's enough for me to know that I need to have some individual conversations with some of you in order to get this thing drafted. We do have some time though, and that'll let me have those conversations.
At some point here, I know that there's been at least a couple of meetings with the work group. I mean, at some point here, it'd be great to have just a briefing on that particular effort and where you are with things, as a standalone workshop for us.
And certainly I can put that together. It's the quick answer is not very far along. We've had a lot of responses about why people can't do things. We haven't had a lot of what they can do or what they are willing to do. And that's problematic because I have no actual control over what cases get filed. That's not my wheelhouse. That's sheriffs, prosecutors, that side of thing. And so trying to get all of those interests aligned has been a bit of a cat herding exercise.
I agree with Peter on that, but I want to say that it's not from lack of trying. Sometimes you have to allow this stuff to happen on its own before you can funnel them down to action. And right now, Peter's done a great job of putting the different options out there, letting them figure out where their boundaries are for themselves, because they can't have to be able to explain it to each other, and then start to sit down and come up with the action. I would expect that that's going to start to begin pretty soon. But he's done a great job with what he had to work with as they go through their processes, in my opinion.
I think that's a pretty accurate descriptor of it.
Yep. Commissioner Trask?
I think one thing that we have over a lot of other counties is you, Peter, and our prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office work together well. And so I think that's why they've asked that I be on that, the WASAC asked that I be on that committee, was because Mason County is usually ahead of the game. And so if
I've worked very hard to get us there, but yes.
yeah. But we should be punished for what other counties are not doing because we've got it right.
And that is, I think, a very valid critique of this whole thing. I think that is what is happening. There are a number of counties that have added bureaucratic requirements to their public defense staff to the point where their public defense staff can't do what they're supposed to be doing, which is casework. And sadly, it seems like we're heading more in that direction of administrative burdening rather than just doing the casework and getting it done. Which leads me into my second thing that I brought before the board.
Wasn't that just done? Go ahead.
So just a nice smooth segue there. So in an effort, I assume, to add insult to injury, the Washington State Legislature has put forward a grant. They have put a sizable amount of money behind this grant. They have specified it for rural counties only, and then they have restricted it to a case type that we have seen exactly one of since January of 2024, and that one got dismissed almost immediately. It is the sort of case that we are actively trying to divert and get away from the courts. And I don't expect to see a lot more cases of this. What does that mean? That means that I think we would be lucky to get 4 digits out of this grant. And we're going to put about 5 digits worth of work into it in terms of the administrative. And so it is a potential funding source. I feel like the board should have the final say on whether we pursue that or not. That doesn't feel like it's my call. I don't recommend that we do, because all it does is add administrative burden for very, very little return.
Of which we don't have the capabilities right now to handle what we're already doing. I'm in favor of what you're saying. I just don't see it where. I appreciate you explaining it to us and putting it out there, but I don't see where it's a benefit at this time. Commissioners?
Yeah, I don't see it as a benefit either, but I also want to be very cautious, because if the legislature is saying, here, we're giving you some money, and then we come back and say, well, gosh, it's not about the money that I don't know. I'm just I want to be very cautious on this moving forward, because I don't want them saying, we offered you money and you didn't take it.
I agreed. But they offered us money for a very, very tight, specific thing.
Yeah, I understand that too. But if there's a way that we can make sure that maybe this is included in that letter, saying we had one case. And
I think a response letter that says exactly that, sent to OPD, because OPD is technically the one offering the grant.
right,
It's the legislature authorized it through them. I think if we send a response letter back to OPD, and I can word that one pretty strongly and get away with it.
okay. Oh yeah, just facts. Show them the facts. Facts are better than a lot of things. I just don't want them to think that we're not taking the money when they've offered it.
Right. And I think we definitely want to establish that record of, we are not taking this specifically because it's not actually money. Like, it's just work for very little money, if any. And so why don't you provide us with money to do useful stuff with, instead of to increase our administrative burden?
No. Commissioner Schutte, you have any input?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Trask is right. I mean, I think we have to take the money, but we have to complain about it, and just sort of pass along the reality, again, of the situation, and take what we can, recognize that it's imperfect, and then ask for, in the future, there to be a little bit more flexibility within their offerings. Seems
So
like
just to clarify then, are you both saying that you want to take the money even though it goes backwards with what we'll probably be doing with it, and we don't have the cases to do it with?
if you don't have it's reimbursement, right?
It's reimbursement based. And so it's reimbursement. We're going to have to provide a significant amount of data to OPD. And so I need to go through and
but okay, it's reimbursement. And if you only had one, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like this is gonna, like, you know what I mean? If we only have one, the argument for not taking it is the argument is the same argument for taking it. We've only had one, so it's not like we're accumulating a ton of work.
Well,
But I think the reality, I think why I agree with what Commissioner Trask was saying, or part of what Commissioner Trask was saying, is if we're not availing ourselves of the funding and that is available to us to help support indigent defense, what message then does that send to the legislature? So I think you have to figure out how you're going to thread the needle on this in a way that recognizes that it's an imperfect fund source. It's a unnecessarily complicated fund source, but we don't want to lose that position in the argument where it says they need to fund indigent defense. So if there's a way to kind of thread that needle, that's, I think, the right place to be on this.
So Peter, is there staff time and money that goes into this, even if we get no cases?
yes, there will be the application is, I think, 20 pages long and requires a significant amount of data that we're going to have to assemble and put into it. In addition, we're going to have to provide quarterly reports that include all of the case filings and all of the it's a way for them to get us to collect data for them, which is what OPD likes to do, is use grants to collect data. And so yes, even if we only have one case, there will still be administrative time. I wasn't discounting.
And the one case we had, you said we dismissed it was dismissed immediately?
Almost immediately. It was
Yeah.
dismissed within 72 hours.
And how long ago was that? Did we get one a year, or was that?
No, that was within 2024. So the case type is actually for the fix to the Blake statute. And so it's very recent. There haven't been a lot of these cases before because that fix only came into play January 2024. And we've had one case since. This is the legislature's kind of response to, oh, we've put possession of a controlled substance back on the map. We're going to put reimbursement up for it. The problem is that it's limited to cases in district court. And anytime we get a possession of a controlled substance case, it's almost always attached to a felony, which means it's in superior court, which means we can't apply for it. And so before, where I thought maybe we had 5 or 6 cases, I went back through it, looking at the court they were filed in, and we've only had one filed in our district court. And like I said, it's almost immediately.
So I myself, I don't think we have the bandwidth to add anything more on. If it's not going to benefit, but I'm not going to stand in the way of it. If the two commissioners want to put it on the agenda, I'll vote with you on it, because not enough to stand against it. I just want us to bear in mind we're putting more burden on an already burdened group for no benefit, except for just to say that we didn't ignore your money.
So Peter, when is this application due?
It's due June 30th, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see the date on here as to when it was due. It says the grant period will be rolled from the July 1st through June 30th. That doesn't give them much time. If it's due on the 30th, that does not give them much time to review it at all either. Yeah, it says OPD by June 30th. Why do they do this to themselves?
I don't really care about why they do it to themselves. I care about why they do it to us.
Well, I do too, but I
think that was a rhetorical question that we all ask ourselves in our head every time it comes up. She just said it out loud. That's all.
I tend to do that. And Peter, tell me, are usually the secondary charges, so that if this is a secondary charge, are they usually dismissed?
As I said, we've only had one case in which it's come up as a secondary charge well, it wasn't a secondary charge, it was a primary charge in district court. It hasn't come up as a secondary charge in district court because almost always it's a secondary charge to a felony, right? The amount of
Which then
the fact
goes
of the
to
matter is we're not
superior.
seeing a lot of arrests for misdemeanors anymore. And if you don't see an arrest, you don't see a search incident to arrest, which means the cop never finds the meth that's in someone's pocket or the fentanyl or whatever it is.
Right.
And so it's only when we're committing an arrest that we also get the possession. And the arrests are happening for felonies, which means these are all of the cases that involve possession of a controlled substance are still going into superior court, but cases that are in superior court are not a part of this grant, and we cannot get reimbursement for them.
So other than applying for this, I don't see anywhere in here where they say that they would take correspondence or anything like that. So
I can do correspondence with OPD.
could you, do you think that they would read it?
Yes.
Yeah,
So let's
Because-
just do that then. I think let's just send them the letter and
right. That's what I think too.
I would be happy to do that.
I think you have 3 on that one.
Okay. I will prepare a letter. Did you want me to come back and brief the letter with you or just run it by Mark?
I would be okay if you just run it by Mark.
Okay.
I would too. I'd like to actually, if Commissioner Shute doesn't mind, I'd like to ask you to throw it into his camp as well for comment with Mark. He's good at this. Throw away a
Okay.
tool. So he's good at it. So if you don't mind, include him in as well.
if I have time, I'm pretty much at capacity myself, but if you get it to me in a timely manner, I'll take a look at it.
I will endeavor to do so.
Thank you. What else you got for us, Peter?
Those were the 2 big ones. So that's where I am right now.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have anything for Peter?
No, then I'll see you on Thursday.
Very well.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Public Works and Utilities and Waste. Loretta.
Morning. I think it's, oh no, not morning.
It's not.
We'll move quick. Lovejoy has a request to declare some property surplus.
Yes. I have a proposal for real property surplus to set a hearing possibly. This parcel is on the corner of Johns Prairie and Johns Creek Road. And the background on that was back in 1986, we did a road project, and on the south end, we softened the curve, which took out part of the northerly part of the south parcel. So the road used to go all the way up past where this parcel is, which is it's track B on the on the deed itself. Basically, it never belonged to the north parcel. It always belonged to the south, and then we bought it as an uneconomic remnant. Back in October, I received a phone call from the potential owner that was in escrow that was basically getting ready to acquire it. And he was like, well, what about this corner? He had it surveyed, what is it? Is it just an easement? I told him it was owned in fee. He proceeded, he went through escrow, he bought it. Then it was sometime in the beginning of the year, we noticed some basically excavating going on, and then there was a fence being put up, and then we sent out a letter of trespassing because it is owned in fee simple by the county. That was May 16th of 2024. And at that point, the fence wasn't complete. The posts were there, but I don't believe the chain link fence was there. And I've also heard from a different parcel owner that inquired about the parcel as well, wanting to know what the disposition was. Did the county still own it? They were looking at maybe thinking about buying it for like a potential bus shed for the kids down Johns Creek Road. So we basically have 2 different people interested in it.
So let me just verify, you're going through the process for yourself and you find no future need or value for us. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We have several people that are interested in it, but it has not been through a surplus process yet. And are you asking for it to go on for a surplus process first? Of course.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And myself, I would think the best way to do it at that point is to also put a sign on it and let them make their highest and best offer on it. What do you think,
That's
commissioners?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. So this is the road that's by Belco.
Commissioners, I didn't see in the packet, did you have a map?
No.
Okay,
No.
let me do a quick share screen here.
Yeah, so I just brought up Johns Prairie Road and East Johns Creek.
I was just doing the same thing.
Now, is that circle accurate, or is it does it go to the tree line?
Well, that spot in between the red line and the tree line is actually where the road used to be, north of it.
Okay. But we own the whole piece then,
Yes, that whole little kind of
Okay.
triangle piece, yes,
and we did away with the road, so that's still part of the parcel.
yes. Yep.
Yeah, I say, let's go through the process to surplus it and then handle it like we do all our other properties by just listing and put it up there for high bid. Commissioners, would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yep, let's make it happen.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
So just a little bit of added information to that, Lovejoy. The property owner, even though you've warned him numerous times, actually built a fence there, correct?
Correct, yes.
Well, good. He
And
may
he
want to spend
has-
a little more.
Just wanted the commissioners to be aware that the property owner.
And he
Yep.
has called since since he received the trespass letter, he has called. He wasn't too thrilled with it,
Mhm.
but I did reiterate what the letter stated that, you know, if he's not the one that ends up buying it, that he would need to remove everything that's trespassing at his expense.
He's not claiming ownership or anything, is he? At this time, is he recognize that it's the reason why I'm asking you that is are we talking about something that may have a clouded title because of somebody wanting to take it to court or something?
He hasn't stated that.
Okay.
He just stated he thought it was an easement, even though he was told otherwise.
Okay. So we own it outright. Matter of fact, it adds
Yes.
value. Tell them thank you for adding value to the property.
Yep.
All right. The only other thing, a couple of items that I have, commissioners, there was some correspondence that was received regarding speeding on Harstein Island. And I sent a response on that and happy to answer any questions or follow up on that if you have anything.
No, but I got a question. How come Tina has your face on her?
Because our goofy Zoom sign in, I know.
Interesting, yeah.
Is under mine. I think I need to change it to Kelly so we can see Kelly's pretty face.
So no, I'm aware of that email and aware of your response. The response is what it actually is. So I don't know that we have any issue with it.
All right.
But that's me, Commissioners Trask or Shooty. Did you guys see those emails as well?
I did.
Any issues?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Did
I want to thank.
Did you get a reply to your reply?
I have not yet, Commissioner Shooty. It's hard. I always try and pare them down, but you got to have enough substance. It's a little bit wordy, but there you have it.
Okay. What else you got?
The other thing, commissioners, I think last meeting you were asking or inquiring about the cost of the speed display signs and the
Yes.
rapid flashing beacons.
Yep.
And Mike and Don Dady rounded up some costs on that. So in Hoodsport, there were two at $17,000 a piece. So the Hoodsport install was $34,000. And then the rapid flashing beacons were $22,000 for the pair, and that's about typical. On top of that, we have an annual power bill that we pay for those units. In the last couple of years, that was about $1,200 per year. To date this year, we've paid $500, I believe, for the power for those units. And then, as you know, we're on the hook for any maintenance. That's the maintenance agreement that we execute with DOT. And we had one in Hoodsport that was hit, and that maintenance cost was, I believe, $4,000 for that unit.
Okay.
So that's what we know about the ongoing maintenance costs and power and
Have we looked
initial
at solar for
purchase.
those?
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Have we gotten to a point where solar is any good for those?
So some are solar, but you want to make sure that they're reliable at all times.
We have a few trees.
Yeah, we have
Just
some
sometimes-
trees.
Yep.
And then, of course, the initial install cost depends on where existing power is. So sometimes it's more costly to get power to the unit. And that's why you would want to look. That's another reason why you'd want to look at solar. Because
we
the
did-
solar units are slightly less expensive.
Yeah, and if we were to do flashing, solars would definitely work better for that, right?
Better than,
Speed sensors. I would expect that it would take a lot less juice or a battery
oh,
operated easier. No? LED lights and,
yeah,
well, with with permission from the commission, I'll contact Dan and see what parts that he was talking about they may be willing to kick in.
Okay.
I'm asking the commissioner, you okay with me making that call and just,
I am.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay. What else you got, Loretta?
that's all on our list this morning, commissioners.
Do we have anything for Loretta? Just smiles. All right, thank you, Loretta.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have support services. Mark.
Thanks, commissioners. I'm trying to navigate to this page. For some reason, my navigation part went away. So first up, we've got
TJ.
thank you. Website stuff, yeah. Oh, there, I got it. TJ. You there, TJ? Don't see TJ on here.
Yep, that might
I see
There
him.
he is, Todd.
be him, but
Mhm. Not hearing or seeing.
Not
Just
paying
listening.
attention.
he's got it on automatic. Why don't we come back to him? And
I like it. Let's go to John. Talk about Phillips Lake gate attendant contract.
Hey, John.
Where's
Morning,
Diane?
Commissioner.
Oh, there he is.
There you
Okay.
go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yes, it's
Can hear
come
you.
due. We're getting ready August 1st to renew the contract for Phillips Lake for the gatekeeper, and Dean Ennis, who had the contract before, is willing to renew it. So we'd like to go ahead and put this on the agenda to be approved so that we can renew the contract and ensure that the security is out there well in time of the contract expiring. Are there any questions?
Nope, good with me.
Sounds good to me.
Same here.
Awesome. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, TJ, are you on now?
We got movement. Where's he at?
I think I scared him away.
Yeah, he completely dropped off.
All right, Jen, you want to do our May financials?
Yes, I'm ready. Let me share my screen. Okay, so the May financials, beginning with page 2 of the packet, we have the general fund revenue. For May, we've received 20,812,000 compared to 2023. We have received 20,627,000. We're at 47% of our budget this year compared to 49% last year. And one of the questions that came up during April was non-departmentals revenue and the difference between the two. So we have received close to 2.2 million this year compared to 2.79 million last year. So the main difference is the LATCF funds. We had received 400,000 in May of 2023, where this year, we haven't received any, since that's a one-time revenue. So that was the main difference there. And hopefully that answers your question from last month. On the treasurer's revenue detail, we've received 14,358,000 compared to this year, compared to last year, 14,354,000. So very similar revenues there. We're at 49% of our budgeted revenue this year compared to 51% last year. So everything's looking pretty consistent there. On our expenditures, we have expended in the general fund this year through May 19,128,000 compared to last year 17,943,000. We're at 37% of our budgeted revenue this year compared to 38% last year. So again, looking very very comparable this year to last year. On the special fund 6-year recap through May, here's all the special fund revenues, or not all of them, but some selected revenues. We have the community development, they're up at about 1.378 million compared to last year, 1,047,000. So we're up over the past 5 years, so that looks good. Other items to note, sales tax is up a little bit, which we'll go over in a moment. The filings are up over last year, so that's good. Good news, it seems, for the economy and where things are at. Lodging tax is up as well, so that's also good news. And REIT is up. So as a county overall, we're doing okay, it looks like, economically. The sales tax detail, our sales tax continues to increase this year compared to last year. I know that some of the larger counties are seeing a decrease in sales tax, and so with our county, with us being so rural, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but more online shopping possibly, or people moving from the bigger cities into Mason County. But we've received 3.76 million this year. We're on track to receive 9.64 million by the end of the year, and we've budgeted 9.2 million. So our sales tax is looking good. The 6-year financial recap. So we have 29,214,000 in cash, roughly. You can see all of our reserves here. We again are at 47% of our budgeted revenue and 37% of our budgeted expenditures in the general fund. And all of the special fund cash balances are shown here in this column. And those total close to 66 million, which is up over the previous 5 years. For the motor pool, we are at 31.53% of our budgeted expenditures, which is very low. I mean, we're on track, we would be on track to our budget, would be at 41.66%, but a lot of our vehicles haven't come in yet that we budgeted for. So, so our capital upfit is expenses are very low compared to what we've budgeted. The special fund revenues, we're at this year 28,380,000 roughly, compared to last year 26,268,000. We've received 46% of our budgeted revenue in the special funds this year compared to 44% last year. And the expenditures for the special funds, we have expended 20,500,000 roughly, and this year compared to last year 18,933,000. So we're at 28% of our budgeted expenditures this year compared to 24% last year. And the last thing that I have on this is the county debt, and we have a total balance at the end of May of $15,701,000 roughly. So any questions or comments on any of that?
Questions, commissioners?
Me.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing that I have for you is the 2025 budget process. So we are on track to send out the budget guidelines, the commissioner's budget guidelines tomorrow after they are signed after the meeting. And that will kind of kick off the budget process for 25. And after that, I'll send out the rates and the budget spreadsheet that all the departments receive that shows the different budget levels. That will go out sometime in July once we populate those that spreadsheet with the June numbers. Originally, I had thought it would be a good idea to try to adopt our 25 budget in October, which is the one of the options that counties have is to adopt the budget in the first Monday in October. Most counties, if not all, follow the alternate budget schedule, which is adopting the first Monday in December. And that I think would probably be a better option for us to stick with, since the levies would not be ready until at least late November for that adoption in December. So I just wanted to make sure that you are on board with that, commissioners, and then maybe try and schedule some of our workshops, because that would be another issue, is we wouldn't have time to negotiate with departments if we adopted in October. So just wanted to get some feedback on that and see if we can do some scheduling.
Personally, I'm not, I have no problem with trying to do it sooner rather than later. When it comes to negotiation, the funds are pretty much stabilized now. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of negotiation, just the establishment of what we have and a few little things extra. But that's just my 2 cents. I can go either way and adopt it at the last minute. We've done it all, the whole gamut over the years. Commissioner Trask, how do you think? How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm okay with sticking with how we've done it in the past. I always do like getting things finished faster. But I want to make sure that the departments feel that they are being heard as well. So if we can get it done before, that'd be great. But I'm good with whatever works for the county works for me.
I mean, it looks like in order for that to happen, right, you'd only have 3 days, Jen, because it'd have to be October 7th, the first Monday in October.
Yeah, it would be October 7th, and so the October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd would not be applicable, because I mean that would just not be enough time for negotiating and putting that in. So yeah, I think if we adopt in October, we could pretty much. I just don't know how we would do the negotiations with departments. So if we plan on adopting it, this schedule in front of you is is for the adoption in December,
Right.
so December 2nd. The main thing I'm worried about is not negotiating with departments, because that could be done later and done as supplementals if needed. But the property tax levy, getting that correct and budgeted would be my only concern.
Well, no matter what, we're not gonna be able to do that. As you and I had discussed, that's gonna have to be
Right.
at another point. We can't get that wrong, and we can't control everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably just estimate it and then come back, but I would want to be careful with that. I can do a little more research. We would have to redo our re-adopt our financial policy, because that does state that we use the alternate schedule, and redo a resolution or two with the October adoption, which is not a big deal, but I want to make sure that we have everything in order and in order to look at adopting earlier.
Simple is better and measure twice. Commissioner Schutte?
Did I miss, was somebody asking to adopt in October?
No, I just thought, with chart of accounts and everything, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to get it done. I don't know that it would really save any time if we're going to negotiate with departments anyway afterwards. It would probably end up taking more time. So I'm just trying to look at maybe doing things more efficiently, but I want to make sure that it would be more efficient if we were to look at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as what you have presented in front of us to keep on our normal adoption schedule, do we have to approve this in some kind of action, or is this just a information only thing? Like, the reason I ask that is, like, can you maybe put a little bit of time into looking at what the compressed schedule to adopt on October, whatever that is, 7th or whatever, that first Monday? Can you look at what that looks like compared to this, and then that way we can compare them? Or I don't know if that's.
So yeah, I mean, what that would look like is the budget would have to be out to the public by September 23rd. All the other dates, so the auditor would present the preliminary budget September 3rd. And then we would have to be ready for adoption basically September 23rd for October 7th. We would have to have the publishing done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super tight, just based on the way we work here.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's admirable. I think it would be great to be able to do that, and then everybody has a good sense of what they need to look forward to. But I just don't know how practical it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a reason that most counties go with the December 2nd. We're larger than cities, more spread out, and so trying to go by how cities do it, which is in October, is not really too realistic, I think. So I mean, it would be doable, but yeah, I feel like there would be a lot of amendments to do later on.
Yeah, if we're stretching to do it, it's probably not the right thing to do. If the piece don't fit, it was probably the wrong piece. So, commissioners, are we okay just having her continue like we've normally done? Okay. Commissioner Schutte?
I'm comfortable with this calendar.
Yeah, I am as well. Let's just stick with what we've already done. I would like to ask for one little thing though. When they're done putting in their proposals, if you could do a roll up of each department of what they're asking for, just on a separate piece of paper for me to go through it with their narrative. to try and not have them complicated, just keep it simple. There's things that are not going to happen. I'd love to have a simplified one to look at and go, yeah, I like that, like that, like that. And then maybe we can have some conversations off to the side with us before even having them in.
Sure. So I did that last year. Is that what you're picturing?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, we still end up waiting for them to come in. I think we ought to just have a quick little work study session amongst ourselves and talk about it without even have to wait for them. Then we can have the conversations with them and they can convert us one way or the other. Because some of the stuff is no brainer. Why even argue it if it's a no brainer? Why go through that whole process if we are going to agree? Just get it done, and then we can have deeper discussions about the ones we question.
Okay. Sounds good. We can definitely do that. Do we want to schedule some time now, or do you want to look at this and think about it? Maybe schedule time, next week.
I think you set it up, and we're going to end up going along with it. So put something together, put it in front of us, and let's roll. Unless somebody's going away on a large trip, and then if you put it together, we'll have that to know not to do, or we'll change that date.
Okay. Sounds good. And then along the same lines as on the scheduling subject, we have our grant writer that's going to start July 1st. And so I would like to schedule time with each of the commissioners, with each of you commissioners, to sit down with us and talk about goals and objectives and get rolling with
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, that's all that I have, unless there's anything else.
Got anything else for Jennifer, everybody?
Me.
No, we're all good. Thank you, Jennifer. Go ahead, Mark. I know who you're going to call.
Yep, yeah, go for it, TJ. Website redesign.
All right. Sorry about that. My Zoom completely locked up when it was my turn, so switched myself.
Always happens to the IT guys.
I know, it figures. So IT was asked to go out to open RFP for website redesign. We got quite a few respondents. We went through each one. The IT steering committee viewed some presentations by the finalists 3, and we came to the conclusion after voting that Revise was the best fit for us. Revise offers quite a few different things to help our website, not only give it a full new look and feel, but some additional tools to help citizens be able to find information quicker and more efficiently on the website. The first year cost is $89,400, and then the ongoing yearly cost for hosting and maintenance would be $12,700. We do not have this budgeted, so it would be something coming from the general fund if the commission chooses to proceed. Any questions?
Yeah, well, Jennifer, what are you thinking, ARPA, or do you have anything?
It actually would not be coming from the general fund. We have capacity in the IT budget.
Okay. There you go. Commissioner Schutte, where are you at? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm definitely supportive. All the proposals are really good. Revise seemed to have the best product to meet the needs that we have at the county and provide a good level of support for us going forward. So I think this is the right choice to get us started. Great job by TJ and everybody who was on the RFP panel. Ben as well.
Commissioner Trask.
Oh, super excited about this. It's neat to see that it's finally making its way.
Yep.
Thank you to all of you, including Commissioner Schutte, for all that hard work. All right, so it sounds like we're a go. Put it on the agenda. Let's make something happen.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just a heads up about this work. I mean, this is just the start of it, right? So it's going to require all departments and offices to really get involved. It's going to require us going through our existing website and assessing the information that is out there and what we want to actually carry forward. Too big of a job just to put on IT shoulders, and I don't think that the departments or offices would want IT making the decisions about what moves forward and what doesn't. But just want to make sure that definitely heard from departments and offices excited about the opportunity to redefine our website. I just want to make sure that they understand that there's going to be some work involved in that. So
they're going to have to. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. What else you got for us, Mark?
That's all I had for you. There is a commissioner discussion. I didn't know Commissioner Netherland, if you wanted to bring up the item that we'd been working on.
Yeah, I don't have it with me. Is it in my packet? But commissioners, were you given a copy of the declaration?
Yeah, I believe Mark sent it out last week.
So
Oh, that one.
yeah, so just so you know, I sent it over to a few other people, like a couple of members of the Republican Party and the Take Back Group, and some members of the Democratic Party, out of curiosity to see what their first blush of it was. And in actuality, all of them were supportive. I was a little surprised. I expected something different. I don't know what you think. I'd like to hear from it now, but the whole idea is to recognize everybody. I thought by still including certain names and labels, it may bother, but it didn't matter to me because I think it's important that everybody gets mentioned in this one, and they were. No pushback at all from what I've seen on it. So I don't know. Then there's the idea of the old proclamation as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I hesitate mentioning everybody only because somebody's going to be left out. And so I went into Chat GPT and put in a proclamation UBU, and I came up with just a small little proclamation where it just says, basically UBU. Be proud, be respectful, and most importantly, be you. And I kind of feel like we're doing this month a disfavor because we should have done something and had it proclaimed in June. By the time that we get this before us, it's going to be July. And so do we want to move forward? Do we not? I don't know. I'm torn on this one because I don't want to. Well, I'm just torn. I'd rather we represent everybody. And so in order to represent everybody, if we continue to do proclamations, we're leaving people out. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. As for myself, as I know, that was my original, was that of originally doing nothing, but at the same time, I said at the time, if we're going to do it, I'd be more apt to do it if it included everybody and be yourself. And you said, well, I'd like to see what that looks like, and that's why I put it together and wrote it and put it out there. I do think that if we do anything, it should be personal and not just a computer thing. That's just how I'm built, because if we're going to do it at all, but I'm going to go ahead and take 1 second and read it since we got it. So see if there's any issue. Whereas the Mason County Board of County Commissioners recognizes and proclaims the month of June 24th as Pride in Being Yourself Month. Whereas Mason County recognizes that we do not unite by dividing, are not inclusive when separating, and do not practice equality by recognizing a select few. Whereas the people of different variations make vital contributions to enhance the social and economic fabric of Mason County. You may be a part of the LGBTQ plus, the straight, non-binary community. You may be a religious or non-religious beliefs and may choose to not identify with any group at all. This is the month to take pride in your individuality. Whereas individuality and self-expression are the cornerstone of a vibrant, inclusive society, embracing and celebrating unique qualities foster a community where diversity is accepted, cherished, and encouraged. Whereas supporting each person's journey to self-discovery promotes empathy, respect, and understanding within our community, reducing prejudice and discrimination. And whereas the Pride in Being Yourself Month embodies the fundamental rights of our great nation to be able to be yourself without others trying to force or intimidate you into living by their personal beliefs, this is an opportunity for individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life to embrace their true selves, share their individual stories, and inspire others to do the same. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Mason County Commissioners proclaims that throughout all of Mason County, June be recognized as Pride in Being Yourself Month. And be it further resolved that the Board of Mason County fully supports the rights, freedoms, and equal treatment of all. We urge all citizens to join in this observance by participating in activities and events that honor and uplift the uniqueness of every individual, to encourage schools, workplaces, organizations, communities, and create environments where everyone feels safe, valued, and free to express their individuality without fear of judgment or reprisal, and by making a personal commitment to live authentically and support others in doing the same. Sign this day. So that's what that proclamation was. So it still recognizes everybody. I myself, I will add that I was down seeing my sister, who I explained to you before is gay. She's one of the finest people I ever met in my life. And I always explain that I always think it's a disservice when she gets pigeonholed into this is who she is, because that's not who she is. She also has dark hair. She also is very short. She's also very kind and loving. And it's just one aspect. So I ran this by her as well, and she actually loved it. She felt very included for all the different aspects of her, because her beliefs are also different than many others. So that's what I actually had come up with and written.
So first, just real quick, you have a short sister?
She's short. She's short. You ought to see a picture when I'm standing next to her. It's funny, but she is so mighty. I'm telling you, that woman stood as a leader in my young life. She's 20 years older than I am. And what a fantastic human being. I so respect her more than anybody can imagine. But again, that's just one piece of her. She's so complicated that I couldn't describe her simply if I had to. So we've got different options up. Commissioner Schutte, where are you at?
Yeah, I appreciate the work on this. I saw a couple of drafts of this, and I think the way the current form that it is in now is one that I would be willing to sign. I think it is, I think it's better than the original draft, and that's how those things usually go. So yeah, I would sign it.
I agree. I definitely think it was better than the first draft. Mark helped me rip things out to simplify it. We try to put the whole kitchen in the pie at first, and then you take parts of it out to actually come up with an apple pie instead of whatever. Commissioner Trask, can you join in signing it, or?
Yep, sure, that works.
Okay. That's all I had from my aspect of it. Mark, do you have other stuff?
I don't.
Okay. Are we adding this tomorrow, or what are we doing? We didn't add nothing today, but at the same time, we got time wise. And if we are going to add it tomorrow, Mark, you have to go and tell Mackenzie I ain't going out the door till you're done.
I have already warned Mackenzie. And since tomorrow is already the 18th of June, we have to do it tomorrow.
Are you comfortable with that, commissioners? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Anybody got anything else? I think it's the longest we've gone in a long time. I'll entertain a motion.
Just before we do that real quickly. So just if we could maybe put a placeholder on next Monday to also discuss the WASAC bylaws thing again. We had the presentation today. Give us a week to review and digest it. I won't be able to attend the meeting on the 26th. And so I don't know, Commissioner Miller, if you are, I'm sure Commissioner Trask is, but just an opportunity for us to come back and have a discussion as a commission.
I need to know what you think on that one, Commissioner. So yeah, we have to, because I'm curious what you think and where you're at. We've all spent time on that committee, and I think this is too important for us just to take it as though it's nothing. Even if we disagree, like I said on the thing, I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to stand against it, but I need to know where everybody else is. If everybody else is going to stand with it, I'll stand with it, but I'm very troubled by it.
Yeah, I'll be driving to Yakima because I think that it's important that I'm there in person. So yeah, let's do, and then we can come up with a good decision for Mason County.
I like it. All right, do we have anything else? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, move to adjourn. Oh,
It's been moved
I'll
and
second.
seconded that we adjourn. I hear no objection. Everybody have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.